While Sultan Suleiman was known as the Magnificent in the West, he was always Kanuni Suleiman or the Lawgiver, to his own Ottoman subjects. As the historian Lord Kinross notes, not only was he a great military campaigner, a man of the sword, as his father and great-grandfather had been before him, he differed from them in the extent to which he was also a man of the pen. He was a great legislator, standing out in the eyes of his people as a high-minded sovereign and a magnanimous exponent of justice. The overriding law of the empire was the Shari'ah, or sacred law, which as the divine law of Islam was outside of the Sultan's powers to change. Yet an area of distinct law known as the Kanuns, canonical legislation, was dependent on Suleiman's will alone, governing areas such as criminal law, land tenure and taxation. He collected all the judgments that had been issued by the 9 Ottoman Sultans who preceded him. After eliminating duplications and choosing between contradictory statements, he issued a single legal code, all the while being careful not to violate the basic laws of Islam. It was within this framework that Suleyman, supported by his Grand Mufti Ebussuud, sought to reform the legislation to adapt to a rapidly changing empire. When the Kanun laws attained their final form, the code of laws became known as the Kanuni Osmani, or the Ottoman laws. Suleiman's legal code was to last more than 300 years. Suleiman gave particular attention to the plight of the Rus, Christian subjects who worked the land of the Sapias. His Kanun, or Code of the Rus, reformed the law governing levies and taxes to be paid by the Rus, raising their status above serfdom to the extent that Christian serfs would migrate to Turkish territories to benefit from the reforms. The Sultan also played a role in protecting the Jewish subjects of his empire for centuries to come. In late 1553 or 1554, on the suggestion of his favorite doctor and dentist, the Spanish Jew Moses Human, the Sultan issued a firman, formally denouncing blood libels against the Jews. Furthermore, Suleiman enacted new criminal and police legislation, prescribing a set of fines for specific offenses, as well as reducing the instances requiring death or mutilation. In the area of taxation, taxes were levied on various goods and produce, including animals, mines, profits of trade, and import-export duties. In addition to taxes, officials who had fallen into disrepute were likely to have their land and property confiscated by the Sultan. Education was another important area for the Sultan. Schools attached to mosques and funded by religious foundations provided a largely free education to Muslim boys in advance of the Christian countries of the time. In his capital, Suleiman increased the number of mektabs, primary schools, to 14. Teaching boys to read and write as well as the principles of Islam. Young men wishing further education could proceed to one of 8 madrasas, colleges, whose studies included grammar, metaphysics, philosophy, astronomy, and astrology. 48. Higher madrasas provided education of university status, whose graduates became imams, or teachers. Educational centers were often one of many buildings surrounding the courtyards of mosques. Others included libraries, refectories, fountains, soup kitchens and hospitals for the benefit of the public.